During the Rawlings regime, they said the same time. Yeah, the same thing. We were in bed with the... During the Kufuor administration, they said the same time. We were in bed with the Kufuor regime. Now, we must be, so to speak, prostitutes to be in bed with all these various governments.
The EC boss, whose delivery focused largely on the biometric voters register, gave a chronological account of the evolution of Ghana's electoral process vis-à-vis the significance of the biometric system in the conduct of peaceful elections in December.
There have been many changes to our electoral system over the years. In fact, in the near future, we will go continuous registration, which would then mean that any working day, if you are qualified, you could walk to one of our offices spread around the country and go and add your name to the voters register. I can tell you that there are places where they've done biometric registration, but they don't know if you registered here and registered somewhere else. They don't know, because they have not done the central matching of that data. We didn't want to do that, so we put the infrastructure in place at the time before. That's why, even though we were the first to do this computerized thing, we were not the first to do biometric voter registration. In any case, this year, we've done biometric voter registration. After we have identified you, we will give you the ballot, and we will go through the same process as we have used before. You will go into the booth, mark your preference, come out, and put it in the ballot box. So no electronic voting and no electronic counting.
But the biometric registration exercise was not without challenge. As the EC boss indicated, the number of prospective voters who participated in the exercise exceeded its 13 million target. The final register to be produced after the ongoing exhibition exercise is expected to be the leanest, cleanest and most reliable. Dr. Afarijan dismissed suggestions that the EC was creating the new constituencies to favor a particular political party. He read some legal provisions which support the EC's intended exercise. Chairman of the forum, Professor Kwame Ninsen, believes intelligent dialogue on matters of human interest promotes peaceful cohesion. He noted, if elections are not well managed, we are only paving way for chaos.
Conflict-free voting, which is to say that barring occasional disagreements between parties, candidates at isolated polling stations, the process is going to go on smoothly.
Joy News sought the reaction of attendees to the EC boss lecture.
You know, when people get to know and are armed with information, they look at things a bit dispassionately and so on. So that is the important function we thought we should perform, so that the biometric thing, this constituency thing, doesn't also get complicated by misunderstanding over biometric procedures and rules and so on. And that's an important function for us, which we performed. And I believe many have been educated today.
I think, again, it's come out clearly that he did not do this out of, mischief or to favor any, particular political party. It's the same formula they've been using over the years that they've used for this one. After all, we have all decided to go democratic, but elections are the vehicles that drive democracy. And so if 3 months to elections we have all this noise around, then I don't think that we are doing ourselves any good as a country. It's the same formula he's used, and I think that he has even sent us a very strong signal. We should be careful, because if this CI doesn't go through, what it technically means is that we do not have a valid voters register.
What measures have been put in place by the security agencies of Ghana, even as we draw closer to the elections on the 7th of December?
In fact, we've put in measures well over a year ago. We've been conducting training for our personnel both in elections handling and in combat issues, that is combat-related issues, how we should professionally police the elections. And I think that this will go to strengthen our belief, like I said earlier, and we will do exactly that to ensure that no untoward incidents are encountered before, during, and after the elections. But nevertheless, we would always want to remind citizens of this country that their cooperation is required in this direction. Without the cooperation of especially the political parties, we think that we would have a very difficult task, but we shall be able to overcome.
If you check the Press Freedom Index, Ghana is one of the countries enjoying the best press freedom in the world. Now, we have a reputation to protect. And as political parties, they should know that a lot is at stake in this election. If we mess up this particular election, all this enviable record that we have built up over the past 20 years will be completely blown apart.
The high-level forum is part of the Institute for Democratic Governance line of activities for the upcoming elections.
Still on the story of the 45 new constituencies, lately former President Kufuor and the NPP have been very critical of the Electoral Commission, making statements that cast doubt over the integrity of Dr. Kwadwo Afari-Gyan and his team. Sairam Abla de Souza asked ex-President Kufuor why he is so critical of the same Electoral Commission that declared him president in 2000.
What's going wrong is that somehow on the eve of the 2012 election, the Commission seems to be introducing an element that is raising eyebrows everywhere. Once the register is closed and it's open this way, one shouldn't expect the Electoral Commission to come in to say this last minute time creating as many as about a fifth of the entire numbers of the seats in Parliament to add to it, to take place in the election. You do that, people will begin to wonder, what is it? There's no necessity for the nation to be stampeded this way. You do that, then people should suspect there's a motive. And that's what I mean by the impartiality of the electoral referee. See, many a beautiful football match, I don't know if you love football, but ask the young men, many a good match is marred by bad referee. So we don't want that. The Electoral Commission, as you've said, so far in the history of Ghana seems to have done well. We wish it remains like that through this election. If there should be any changes, and this change is quite radical, and we shouldn't forget this is the first time we are trying the biometric registration system. After 2012, just 2-3 months away, there will be plenty of time for the Electoral Commission to come and test the new ideas on the people.
Now, the minority in Parliament has asked the Electoral Commission and the ruling National Democratic Congress to stop experimenting with the constitutional instruments which will give legal backing to the creation of 45 new constituencies. Addressing a press conference at Parliament House a day after the controversial CI-77 was withdrawn, the minority leader Osei Mensah Bonsu indicated the minority is not against the creation of the new constituencies, but the processes surrounding their creation. The press conference was in reaction to the CI laid yesterday, which is now known as CI-78.
Minority Leader Osei Mensah Bonsu questioned the creation of the new constituencies with just 3 months to the general elections. He accused the Electoral Commission of allowing itself to be manipulated by the ruling NDC.
The creation of new constituency by the EC based on the creation of districts by the NDC government is a bad precedent because this situation has never been experienced in this country. It is a bad precedent, an abuse of power, and the process is a barefaced resort to gerrymandering. The creation of the constituencies by the Electoral Commission barely 3 months to the general elections is capricious, blatantly risky, dangerous, and disrespectful in our constitutional democracy. The process and calendar of elections must be transparent to all parties concerned. There must be predictability in order for stakeholders, especially the political parties, parliamentary and presidential candidates, to be able to plan ahead to a scheduled program of activities. As we speak today, 3 months to the general and presidential elections, the country does not know the number of constituencies in the country.
Per the 1992 Constitution, a constitutional instrument, CI, becomes a binding legal document 21 days after it's laid before Parliament. The CI 78, which was laid on Tuesday, September 4, will mature on October 1, and the Electoral Commission has indicated it will go ahead to work with the new document. But the minority in Parliament is not happy with the EC's resolve.
There are no new constituencies in place. As we speak today, there are only 230 constituencies in place. The Electoral Commission knows this, that as we speak today, there are no new constituencies in place. Yet the EC went ahead and supervised the conduct of primaries by the ruling government party in these non-existent constituencies. That conduct by the EC is reprehensible, is a complete illegality, and clearly portrays the Electoral Commission as being in bed with the ruling NDC government.
The minority leader is therefore urging Ghanaians to appeal to the authorities involved to stop experimenting with the constitutional instrument. Meanwhile, the National Health Insurance Bill 2012 is still at the consideration stage. Sitting continues tomorrow.
Now joining me in the studio is Professor Ken Atefa, a legal practitioner and criminologist, for some insights into the situation where Dr. Afari-Gyan has been issued death threats over the creation of the new constituencies, some 45 new constituencies. He made that known at the IDEG high-level forum earlier today, and Professor Ken Atefa is in the studio here with us to give us more insights into that, really. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, madam. And good evening to your viewers.
And thanks for doing us. But really, does it strike you as odd that the EC would receive such threats at this time?
Let me first say that I have personally not heard the nature of the threat issued at the EC or at Dr. Kojo Afari-Gyan. I've been informed by Multi-TV that is the case. Right. I am disappointed that a public official in the course of his work would receive death threats, but I am not surprised that such a development would occur in our country. We have, in the recent past, have similar incidents in this country. I recall during the sit-ins of the National Reconciliation Commission in 2003-2004 that the Commission received similar death threats, on occasion targeted at particular members of the Commission and also against certain journalists. I recall in particular Lieutenant General Alexander Emmanuel Eskin being targeted, and Bishop Palmer Buckle and the chairman, the late Justice K.E. Amwasechi, and I think Mr. Kweku Bako Jr. of the Crusading Guide newspaper was also targeted. So depending on the circumstances, there are people in the public who may not like what it is that a public official is doing. When you have death threats coming in, it is disappointing, but it also is an indication that all is not well, at least from the perspective of some members of the public.
Right. Now, before we go to our next question, I'd like us to watch the video where he really says that he's received some death threats. He said that earlier today at the IDEG high-level forum. Let's take a look at that.
These are very dangerous times that we live in now. Already I have begun to receive threats on my life. Threats. Various allegations of me receiving money, in fact, between $5 to $10 million. My God.
Right, so there it was, Prof. Can the police play any role at this point? Because he made mention also that he wouldn't be moved by such threats. As to if he has made a formal complaint or not, we are yet to know. But can the police play any role at this point, having made such a statement openly?
Well, first of all, a public officer must act out of conviction that what they are doing is reasonably necessary for the safe, efficient, and economical performance of the job in accordance with law. They must act with rectitude or fortitude, demonstrate strength of character. And if that is what Dr. Kojo Afari-Gyan is doing, persuaded that what he's doing is in accordance with the law and in the best interest of the democracy that we are all seeking to entrench in our republic, that is a matter to be seriously thought through. The issue, though, is with respect to security. It behooves anyone who has who receives death threats that they consider to be, worthy of their attention, to report it to the security agencies, the police specifically. It is for the police to investigate, to determine the appropriate level of risk that they can attach to the threat, and to put adequate measures to insulate the person from the implementation of the risk. But it is also the case that even absent a specific complaint from the person who claims to have received the threat, that the police has a duty to take proactive measures, especially in the case of Dr. Kojo Afari-Gyan and the Electoral Commission, such a sensitive public position and the very person of Dr. Afari-Gyan, that it is, I think, that, and having gone public, it is perhaps sufficient for the police to, on their own steam, go ahead and have a conversation with Dr. Afari-Gyan, determine the bona fides of the concern, establish the level or the degree of risk, and try as best as they can to insulate him and other officers of the commission from the risk. Right.
Now, he says, I will not be moved by such threats. Is that a way really to go about it? How should Dr. Afari-Gyan, at this point in the country's life, in his own life, having occupied such a critical public office, how should he handle it?
Well, I thought I spoke to that a little bit when I spoke about rectitude and fortitude and conviction that what he's doing is reasonably necessary in the public interest and is in accordance with the law. And when I say reasonably necessary, that you take into account all the exigencies of the situation, all the different concerns that are being articulated. It may be lawful, but is it expedient? It may be expedient, but is it necessary? It may be necessary, but is it in the best interest of the nation? If these questions are addressed, I mean, those are independent, of course, of the reality of the threat. But the fact on the ground is that the gentleman asserts that he has received death threats. I think that it is for the police to work with him, to cooperate with him in determining.
Should we worry as a people when ahead of the elections? Should we worry that things of the sort, matters of the sort, are arising?
Oh, I think we should worry. I mean, if the Electoral Commissioner is indeed at risk, I mean, that is an attack on democracy, and that should not be taken lightly. If Dr. Kojo Afari-Gyan is harmed in any way, it can derail the process. It can affect the elections that are scheduled for December 7th. I do hope and pray that nothing untoward like that happens, and that the security agencies are able to work cooperatively with him and with other members of the commission to insulate them from the risk. But by all means, it is a serious risk. I mean, it is a serious matter that ought to be taken seriously.
Thank you very much, Professor, for your time. We've been speaking to Professor Ken Atefa on the issue of death threats sent to the EC chair, Dr. Kojo Afari-Gyan. But moving on to some other stories, fisher folks at Sakumono village have pleaded with Nana Akufo-Addo to help designate a special portion of the shoreline for fishing, since the Sea Defense Project is tearing their nets, rendering most of them jobless. They made the appeal when the NPP flag bearer visited the Tema West constituency as part of his Greater Accra regional campaign tour.
Residents of the Tema West constituency gave the NPP flag bearer a rousing welcome. He made several stops to address the public. At the Sakumono taxi rank, Nana Addo reminded the gathering that Tema is Ghana's industrial hub and blamed the non-functioning of companies such as Valco and Tor on the inefficiencies of the NDC administration.
Valco, Tor, Yebabe Bienu Biom, Emma Tumiama Juma Batamaha, Emma Imrantian Yamama Wanewahano Susan, and Yajumanu Sutubia Tumia, Yaman Tetra Hosa, Eti, Ibaya, Masama Medebano.
Nana Addo made some donations to the school for the deaf and the Tema General Hospital, where a senior nurse appealed to him for support to give the emergency center a facelift. Addressing a gathering at the Community 2 BBC station, former ambassador to Serbia, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, accused EC chairman Dr. Afarijan of plunging the country into chaos.
The 45 constituencies that the Electoral Commissioner wants to put down our throat will never work. It will never work. Nowhere in the world you have 3 menstrual elections, even 2, to try to come out with such difficulties for the country. My message to the EC Commissioner, Afarijan, is that if he doesn't want to bend his fingers, then he should let this country be quiet. If he doesn't want to bend his fingers, then he should think twice about these 45 constituencies he's trying to create.
MP for the area, Na Toshi Addo, used Nana Addo's visit to officially launch her campaign for re-election in December.
Election headquarters, on radio, on TV, online.
Now, an Accra High Court has remanded into prison custody Justin Katinan, a former spokesperson of ousted Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo, for alleged economic crimes he committed during the December 2010 Ivorian conflict. Lawyers for Katinan had earlier filed an application seeking the court to release their client on grounds of illegal arrest and incarceration. But trial judge Kofi Issel Mensah threw out the application, noting Katinan was in lawful custody and before a competent court of jurisdiction and was not prepared to truncate the process.
Lead counsel for Justin Kony Katinan, Patrick Sogbojoy, started his submission by explaining to the trial judge why the arrest of his client was illegal. According to him, the arrest contravenes Section 8 of the country's extradition law, which requests for the issuance of an arrest warrant from a magistrate court before the arrest can be effected. This, he noted, was not done when his client was arrested. He said his client was arrested at the airport and immediately whisked away into a police vehicle and has been in prison custody for more than 48 hours, a violation of his human rights. He also quoted Section 7, Act 30 of the 1960 Criminal Offences Act, explaining that his client was neither informed of reasons for his arrest, contravening Section 14, Clause 2 of the 1992 Constitution, which mandates security officers to clearly state to an individual reasons for their arrest. Patrick Sogbojoy accused the state of violating the provisions of the Geneva Convention, of which Ghana is a signatory, and Section 3 of PNDC Law 305, adding that Justin Kony Katinan is an asylum seeker and a refugee with certificates to that effect, who is entitled to protection under the country's law. He ended his submission by reminding the trial judge that Ghana cannot arrest and extradite his client since Article 36 of the ECOWAS Convention, which allows ECOWAS member states to extradite a political prisoner to another, had not been ratified. This assertion was, however, denied by Chief State Attorney Melly Wood. The state, led by Chief State Attorney Mele Wood, said the extradition process of the accused person had even not started. The accused person, she noted, is an Ivorian national wanted for economic crimes in his home country, Ivory Coast. The accused person is alleged to have led a team of soldiers to rob financial institutions during the 3-month civil strife that plagued the Ivory Coast when former President Laurent Gbagbo refused to cede power to his rival Alassane Ouattara. Trial Judge Kofi Esel Kumsen ruled in favor of the state, noting Mr. Katinan was in lawful custody and before a competent court of jurisdiction, and therefore not prepared to truncate that process. Immediately after the judge's ruling, lead counsel for Mr. Katinan made an oral request for a bail application for his client, but the trial judge asked him to follow due process.
We came with high hopes. We still have high hopes. I'm thinking that we will appear before the District Court Osu tomorrow, where the remand order currently is. It's our view and our candid opinion that the issues that were put before the judge were salient enough, and we highlighted the issue of the illegality of our client's continued detention, and that issue was well put.
Hearing continues at the Osu Magistrate Court on Thursday.
And President John Dramani Mahama is in Ivory Coast for talks with counterpart Alassane Ouattara, likely to include Abidjan's request to extradite an ally of ex-Ivorian leader Laurent Gbagbo. The Ivory Coast visit came as Justin Katinan, the spokesman for Ouattara's political rival, Gbagbo, appeared in court in the Ghanaian capital and was remanded in custody to face an extradition hearing.
Ouattara's government has been accused of a crackdown on opponents, including Katinan, one of 3 Gbagbo loyalists, detained in recent weeks after speaking out against the government, which has in turn accused the former president's supporters of backing a series of attacks on the army. Ghana's High Court earlier today declined to release Katinan, ruling that he had to face an extradition hearing, which the prosecution said should begin Thursday in the magistrate's court. Katinan was arrested in Accra on August 24 under an Ivorian warrant for alleged economic crimes as budget minister during the crisis that followed Gbagbo's refusal to cede power to Ouattara in December 2010. He was among thousands of Gbagbo loyalists who fled to Ghana after the post-election conflict from December 2010 to April 2011, in which some 3,000 people were killed. The spokesman was one of the 3 key Gbagbo allies recently detained following a series of attacks on the army and police near Ivory Coast economic capital Abidjan and on the Liberian border. President Mahama's office said the Ivory Coast trip was to thank regional leaders for their support following the death on July 24 of his predecessor John Atta Mills, and the president is also scheduled to travel to Burkina Faso, Benin, Nigeria and Togo later in the week.
Welcome back. Now, a woman in the village saw a neighbor in her dream, so the neighbor was labeled a witch and now condemned to spend the rest of her life in a witch camp. That is the story of Kadaha, a woman who has served over 20 years in a witch camp and even lost count of her age. Jojo Kobna brings you a preview of a documentary, Cares of the Elderly, a cold case.
We travel to tell a story that has been told over and over again, yet little change has been seen in the lives of victims in so-called witch camps. This is the Ngani witch camp, one of 6 witch camps scattered in northern Ghana, serving as a refuge to many women accused of witchcraft. I am greeted by this old woman who is desperately trying to shave her hair because her bushy hair, she said, gives her a headache. There is a cut hair, but she is determined to end what she started. I learned her name is Kandaha. She does not remember her age, but says she's been here for the past 20 years. Kandaha was ostracized from her community because another woman said she saw her in her dream.
I used to sell pitou, a locally brewed drink. Life was good, but now I am poor. A lady said she saw me in her dream. She alleged I wanted to kill her, so I was chased out of my community.
After the accusation, she was sent to a shrine where her fate was determined by the way a chicken died, according to tradition. If the chicken died with its beak facing up, then accused is not guilty, but she is pronounced guilty when the bird's beak points downwards. Kandahar was pronounced not guilty after the ritual, but she's still serving her sentence. She's not alone. Many women go through a lot to survive in witch camps. Hamdia goes down on her knees. She awaits our permission to get up. Hamdia, a widow, had a simple life farming, taking care of herself and minding her own business until an accusation was leveled against her.
I believe God has a hand in my predicament. If He is not responsible, I wouldn't be going through such pain. God is my judge. I don't believe in witchcraft.
Everything changed to living in permanent torture. Though she was not found guilty, she had to find another home at the Patiga camp in Gushegu and live with other accused women till the end of her life on earth. She is very much alive to the emotional trauma and physical pain around her, but she suffers in silence.
It is not easy surviving here. It is sad that we have to collect grains before we survive, but by God's grace, we are surviving.
She gets ready to find food for the day. After sweeping marketplaces and picking grains from the ground, she sieves the grains from the sand and uses that to prepare food. It is humiliating and challenging. But that is what these women who stand accused do to get food rather than starve to death. Simple carbohydrates, green leaves with no protein. The day starts on a good note. A good rest and a meal after a hard day's work is refreshing. But the best bed a victim in a witch camp can bet is the bare floor.
Well, sad, but this is just a sneak peek of revelations from witch camps in Ghana. And next is Business Report. And our first story in business, the Public Utility Regulatory Commission has announced that there would be no tariff increment in water and electricity for the third quarter of the year. That's from September 1, 2012 to November 30, 2012. This follows a similar announcement in the second quarter where the PURC refused to increase tariffs as a result of poor services by the utility companies for that quarter. In a statement signed by the acting chair, Dr. E.K. Anand, the commission stated that against the background of the current load shedding exercise necessitated by a significant shortfall in gas supplies for generation of electricity, the commission wishes to encourage consumers who are unhappy or dissatisfied with the manner in which this exercise is being handled by the utility service providers to complain to the utility service providers or the commission for immediate redress. The statement further indicated that during this period of a shortfall in electricity supply, the commission is going to intensify its monitoring activities to ensure that the impact of this current situation on consumers is minimized. The commission, however, appealed to the general public to use electricity and water efficiently during this trying moments of a shortfall in supply. And the mining industry is set to contribute a lot to the country's gross domestic product. According to Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Mines, Dr. Tony Orban, contrary to perceptions by most Ghanaians that the industry contributes little to the country's development, it rather contributes a lot through royalties and taxation. He made these remarks at a media interaction here in Accra.
The mining industry accounts for 5% of Ghana's gross domestic product. Minerals make up 37% of the country's total exports, of which gold contributes about 90% of the total mineral exports. Ghana is Africa's second largest gold producer after South Africa, with a production of 3.6 million tons annually. Ghana also produces bauxite, manganese and diamonds. The country has 23 large-scale mining companies producing gold, diamonds, bauxite and manganese. There are also over 300 registered small-scale mining groups and 90 mine support service companies. Other mineral commodities produced in the country are natural gas, petroleum, salt and silver. Despite these notable mineral productions, poverty, inequality and unemployment abound in the country. But Chief Executive of the Ghana Chamber of Mines, Dr. Tony Obeng, describes as misconceptions public criticisms that the extractive sector is not helping to alleviate poverty. He defended the industry, saying mining is a global industry with heavy competition which they cannot control. He added that the complex nature of the industry also poses several challenges to players, such as production costs.
The industry globally is facing human resource challenge. You know, there's lack of personnel in that area. In fact, when you go to Australia now, there are a lot of Ghanaian expatriates in Australia. Because oftentimes when you see gold price going up, we say, look at gold price, and how much are we getting? We don't find out what is the cost of production for which you will get the difference. And this is where the tax element sits in.
The challenges notwithstanding, Dr. Obeng said the mining industry, unlike some other sectors, makes considerable contributions to the country's economy.
The law on mining says that you should return, the industry should return a minimum of 25%, But in the past, we have been returning in excess of the 25%, for which reason last year, 75% of the 4 billion sales that was made last year came back into our banks in Ghana. I am sure that has played a very good role in maintaining a certain balance in our balance of payment systems and also even showing the value of our cities.
When quizzed about the invasion of Chinese miners in the country, Dr. Obeng said the Chinese have not dominated the industry but conceded they are increasing in numbers through the help of some Ghanaians. According to him, some Ghanaians encourage Chinese participation by offering their lands to them for money, and until they stop, the situation will persist. He added that most of them do not see themselves as illegal miners because they paid for the plot.
How did they go there? Obviously, they went there through the support of me and you. As a country, we need to support them. Those who have started properly, let's showcase them. Let people see how you can do it properly so that those who are doing it illegally will know they are doing something illegal. Now, beyond that, the law must come heavily against those who are doing it illegally.
According to Dr. Obeng, the industry's existence has created value in the system and expressed the hope that Ghanaians will appreciate what they have been doing in the mining areas, such as the construction of hospitals, schools and feeder roads and other development projects.
That's it from the business desk. After this is Showbiz. In showbiz, Ghana has been ranked 41st on the World Maternal Mortality Rate Index, according to the CIA World Fact Book report. In view of the high rate, Outlook Munich, a subsidiary of Design House Projects, will be hosting Kek Wallam, Vashon Mitchell, and other international renowned artists, the second edition of his annual MDG5 musical concert in aid of maternal mortality in the country.
The second edition of the annual MDG5 musical concert is slated for September 7th at the Accra International Conference Center and will feature renowned musicians like Kek Wallam, Vashon Mitchell, and Mitchell Hammond from the USA. According to Chief Executive Officer of DHP, Dominic Odro-Entry, the disturbing maternal mortality rating motivated them to organize the mobilization drive through a musical concert.
This year we're going to the northern part of Ghana to do the same donation, where we'll go to maternity ward, try to renovate the place and also give money for beds to help the pregnant women. So that's how they can benefit.
Funds generated from the concert will be used to support a selected maternity ward of a local hospital. This will be the second such drive after proceeds from last year's event went to support the Ridge Hospital's maternity ward. Stanbic Bank will be supporting Outlook Munich with their musical fundraising concert to help Ghana meet the Millennium Development Goal MDG5.
Or 0302 265134 or 0302 94.
Now, Ghanaian trendsetter and entrepreneur Confidence Higgin is living true to her words as she is set to launch her own fashion label, Confidence. In a matter of days, Showbiz has been finding out more about the Confidence label ahead of its launch. Having dazzled Ghanaians for years with her distinctive sense of style, Confidence is looking to start her own fashion label. According to the 2011 BBA Amplified Game Housemate, the Confidence label was founded on the ideals of designing a sophisticated line of shoes, bags and accessories to meet the needs of a modern global woman.
It's promoting the Ghanaian girl or the Ghanaian woman. It's promoting the African woman. It's promoting the urban woman, the woman that is conscious. It's promoting everything African. My take on this is to make it an African brand that you can go, oh yeah, that Confidence shoe, yeah, it's from Africa. Yes, it's from Ghana. It's from West Africa. Yeah, it's from Ghana. Yeah.
What one wonders is if this is not just another fashion craze which will die out with time, but Confidence says a fashion label is here to stay.
If we do it well, it would not be a craze. If we do it well and we present it properly, that it's not only the Ghanaian woman that can consume it, but everybody around the world, it being white, black, yellow, green or blue, can consume it, then it wouldn't be a craze. Then we can take it, we'll say this is ours, just like we've said the African fabric is ours.
The Confidence label might be run by a woman, but it will accommodate the men too. The first collection from the label will be outdoored on September 9 and it will focus on key accessories in casual and occasional ranges for women, including shoes, handbags and purses. And what's more, there's a 10% discount for all who purchase something on the day of the launch.
It's not a joke. It is not a joke.
That's it for Showbiz, brought to you by Airtel. Up next is sports.
Hello there, good evening. My name is Rashidat Kadiri with the latest in the world of sports. The Black Stars continued with their second day of training at the Accra Sports Stadium with a full house following the arrival of the Ayew brothers Andre and Jordan and goalkeeper Adam Larson Karsey. The team is preparing for a first leg final Africa Cup of Nations qualifier against Malawi on Saturday.
The nationwide scouting project will see over 60,000 young and talented football players participating, out of which
Jordan Ayew delayed his arrival in order to finalize a transfer from Olympique Marseille to fellow French Ligue 1 outfit OGC Nice. Together with elder brother Andre Ayew and goalkeeper Adam Karsey, the trio joined their colleagues in camp last night to complement Coach Kwesi Appiah's 24-man squad for Saturday's game. The Black Stars take on the Flames of Malawi at the Accra Sports Stadium in a first leg CAN 2013 qualifier. An arranged friendly match between the Stars and an unnamed club side never was, and meant Kwesi Appiah had to split his team into two for this evening's session. Midfielder Andre Ayew, who was absent in the Black Stars' last three assignments against Lesotho, Zambia and China, is beckoning his colleagues to be conscious of a possible Malawian threat. Norway-based defender Razak Nuhu, who debuts for the senior national team, is hoping to command a regular place in the team after his experience so far. Training continues tomorrow at the Accra Sports Stadium with only one session in the morning. Now, still on football, the Aspire Football Dreams project has been launched in Accra. The project is aimed at sporting and nurturing young players from age 6 and above in developing countries.
The nationwide scouting project will see over 60,000 young and talented football players participating, out of which 50 will be selected to play in the national finals at the Awak Sports Stadium in Accra from September 26 to 29. 3 players will then be selected to travel with an all expenses paid to the Aspire Academy in Qatar for 3 weeks. They could then be selected for scholarship, which would facilitate their development as professional footballers. Deputy Minister for Youth and Sports Edward Omane Boama lauded the project, stressing future success at international meets depends upon new crop of talents such as those that the project will unearth to feed the national teams.
If the Black Stars of today will do well on Saturday and even in 2013 AFCON, it obviously hinged on something that was done yesterday. The performances of our Black Stars in 2006 and 2010 obviously dated back to some years ago when some people nurtured young talents. The future of Ghana football is obviously not going to depend on the existing crop of players that we have in the Black Stars.
And that's how I end it on sports for tonight.
Now, just before we go, the national organizer of the ruling National Democratic Congress, Yaw Boateng Jan, has admitted that the voice on a secretly recorded tape of a meeting between suspected NDC loyalists and a top party functionary scheming about the 2012 election is indeed his. He however insists the conversation had nothing to do with the New Patriotic Party and also contained no diabolical points for the December poll.
I have some wells that I'm working with. Now it's a problem getting them something. They said, okay, then bring this, and let this bring some money for you so that you can maybe share them and they can also do. It's a small rule, but maybe let us make it as this one is the beginning. So after when maybe we say and everybody will know that, oh, these people are paid, I'm sure they will do what? They will increase it. They will increase it. So for all you know, in about 2, 3 or 4 months' time, God willing, if we win this election, and I'm sure we are going to win, you will see that all of you will be having your thoughts and maybe something, you know, where your wife will be. Then you will be free doing whatever job that will be assigned. And the other times you were talking about this special forces and you haven't abandoned it. If you are there, that doesn't mean you cannot still work for us. We will send you there. You'll be trained and you will come back and be working. When they need a writing, we call you to perform whatever duty that will be assigned to you. Then you'll come back and will be working for the party. In some areas like your area, Moga, you can go there and pretend as if you have come to reach your people. If it is not the vehicle that you are sending, you can go by this normal like this, you can pick a flight here. Go to somebody, pick a vehicle and go there. Go and among them, gather enough information and come. I think you get what I'm saying. So when we get all these things, you're about to see, you don't want to give them what we need to do. Next. It is not only the entire office one guy garden, because this time we need to gather information. Now it's young guardian, I'm a young guy.
Well, we're sure to bring you more on this revelation in our subsequent bulletin, but that's it for this hour on Joy News at 8. Don't forget, at 10 p.m., World Ghana stars airing an investigative piece by investigative journalist Anas Aremeya Anas in collaboration with Joy News, a story about how a doctor, a medical professional in a clean and calm environment takes advantage of women who have come there for abortions. You wouldn't want to miss it, and so stay tuned for that piece. By this minute, that's it. I am Kimini Nyamani Amano.